Thank you very much. So that was wonderful, Manon. So our final speaker before we move on to some questions and discussion is Margret Knoll. Margret is a speech and language therapist who's also worked at Atlant with people people with ADHD at all stages. I think Margret has been at Atlant for the last 11 and a half years. So I think she's coming here now? Not yet. She's not coming yet. Okay. She's having her speaker put on. So maybe I'm going to very impromptly ask Ruth a very quick question about, Ruth, whether you think specific training is needed to be able to engage with the moral deliberation agenda on the spot. Okay. So Ruth says we need special training.
You need special training. There are special training programs.
Okay, so there's special training programs. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Margret now for the last talk before we then go on to questions.
Thank you. It's working. I like to walk, and when I sat there, I thought, oh my God, I have to be careful with this. Thank you for having me and listening to me today. And my name is Margret Knoll. You can see it there. And I am one of the facilitators moral deliberation at Atlant. But today I'm standing here in my role of an SLT. And I forget to... Funny. I have to do this on my own. My presentation is nutrition decision making, but that's a very wide topic. So I would like to talk with you about oral nutrition, what to do when it's no longer possible. And I work in a nursing home, and that's the patient group I will tell about. So not in the... it's really the final phase, the final stage of Huntington disease, so keep that in mind. And we all want to be active, so I have a question for you. Have you ever helped someone with HD with drinking or eating? So please, stand up when you have. I see that many of you have already helped someone with HD with eating or drinking. And I guess that you have already experienced for yourself that it's really a challenge to do that in a pleasant way for both the person with Huntington as for yourself. You have to really tune in. These are general challenges in eating and drinking. The first one is what I just asked you. It's very difficult to do it in a pleasant way of all the movements, not only in the arms and the leg, but also in the mouth and in the tongue. So it can be a very big problem. And tomorrow at the breakfast session, I heard that Herr Werner, I don't know if he's here, but when I remembered it well, he talked about, the nutrition gap. And I thought that's a nice word. The energy requirement of a person with Huntington disease, especially also in the latest stage of Huntington, is very, very high. And the person in the last stage needs a lot of energy, but they can't chew, they can't swallow. How do we manage that? How can we make sure that they get enough calories? It's a challenge, it can be a dilemma. So a nutrition gap I will remember and take it over. Swallowing process, it's very important for us as an SLT, but also for our professional caregivers to know the swallowing process all the phases of the swallowing process. You have to know it a little bit out of heart, how you say it? By heart, out of your head. You have to know everything about it, because when you know what the swallowing process is normally, then you can be creative in the way you give nutrition. And that's very important. The challenges you will see now, the tongue pushes out all the food and liquid. The mouth barely opens or closes. The food runs out of the mouth when one sits upright. Inhale while feeding. Body weight continues to decrease. And all consistencies are set to safe, and the person is still coughing, and the person can only lie in bed. What should you do? Is then oral feeding still safe? I think we have to ask another question also. When is oral feeding still safe? Is oral feeding still safe when someone is coughing all the time while eating or drinking? Or do we say it's no longer safe when somebody has had one or multiple aspiration pneumonia, or leave the word aspiration away because we don't know always if it is an aspiration pneumonia, but I guess it's a pneumonia, is then no longer safe? Okay, be active again. What do you choose? A, then stand up. Do you choose B? Then you can still be seated. Nobody stands up. You stand up, thank you. Okay. But I see that most of you choose for B, and we at Atlant choose for B also. But I don't know. Think about this. Yeah? Is there a C? I give you my answer at the end of my presentation, but please think with me, what will be your C? When oral feeding is no longer safe, then we have to think about another way of giving nutrition. And then you think about tube feeding or not. Talk about tube feeding on time. And that's what Manon also said. It's very important to talk with the residents on time about these issues. The residents' wishes at Atlant are regularly discussed about tube feeding. And communication is getting harder. That's why you should discuss it early, when the resident can still say clearly what he wants. He or she, of course. The cognition declines. That's also why you should discuss it in an early stage. You want to know your resident. You want to know what her or his wishes are regarding nutrition in the future. And this can change during the whole process from the disease. And there are also persons with Huntington disease who don't want to talk about it at all. They don't want to talk about the future. They don't want to think about the future. They are living now. So you have to respect that. And just like Manon said, try it later, and give him time or her to think about your question. You talk about it with family, the legal representative, and multidisciplinary team has also a role in this process. And it's important to document it in a treatment plan. Yeah? And then there is tube feeding, no tube feeding, or tube feeding and oral feeding, that's the OF. I want to introduce Willemien, Anne and Jan. They are siblings. You already see that Willemien and Anne has chosen for tube feeding. Jan decided not to choose for tube feeding. So in the same family, there are different choices, different persons, so different lives, different choices, different moral values. Yeah? Willemien and Anne, in the process of making the right decision regarding nutrition, we have had a lot of conversations with the three of them. And the moment we actually started tube feeding was the moment that the swallowing function and the ability to cough up effectively was very much decreased. So you have to think about it. What can we do now? The quality of life should be improved when you choose for tube feeding. And by both Anne and Willemien, it did. Willemien enjoyed very, very much the visits of her cousin and nephew. And she liked it also when her sister came over. And before she got tube feeding, she was busy all day with eating to get enough calories. And when her sister visited her, she was exhausted and couldn't enjoy it anymore. With tube feeding, it was much more, she could enjoy it much more. The same is for Anne. Anne is still living in our nursery home, and he likes to participate music therapy in the living room. He goes there, he likes to go to the men's club. I don't know what they do there, I'm not a man, but he likes to participate. We always try to give some taste experience, small snacks to enjoy that. But in Willemien's case, it wasn't long possible because she had the Parkinson-like Huntington disease, very stiff, and the swallowing function was absolutely not there, and also coughing, she wasn't able to cough. Anne still likes chocolate mousse. So when he wants, he gets some chocolate mousse. Willemien, in Willemien's case, this was a real dilemma, when to stop for her father. And I guess you all can imagine it, that it is a great dilemma. What could you do? But you are the father, you cannot say stop tube feeding. In those days, we didn't have moral deliberation, but I would like to have the time to offer it to them. Now I want to say something about Jan. He said no tube feeding. His swallowing function, kind of out of the blue, was absent. They asked me to come and observe the meal, and everything was already set on thick fluid. And he could open his mouth very good, so it wasn't that the problem, but I saw there was no swallowing function at all. And Jan is my C. He didn't have had any pneumonia, but the swallowing function was absent. He was literally drowning in his food. And for me, that was really a challenge, what I should do. It was clearly that in my professional opinion, oral feeding wasn't safe anymore. But he opened his mouth every time they offered a spoon. And it seemed as if he doesn't have a problem, and he didn't realize that swallowing he wasn't able to swallow anymore. So that was a very strange situation for me. But I said, in my professional opinion, swallowing isn't safe anymore, it isn't possible anymore, so the the doctor takes my advice, and then the sister from Jan came to him and talked with him about it. Are you still behind your choice, not wanting tube feeding? And he said tube feeding wouldn't sustain his quality of life. So yes, I know my choice and I stand behind my choice. So there was nothing left for us to do than end-of-life guidance. And the care team had difficulties with this decision because what I said, it was a kind of out of the blue. So now what? And I was very happy that we now have the opportunity to deploy a moral deliberation. I have some take-home messages, and I will show them all because my time is running out. Be creative regarding giving oral nutrition. Evaluate multidisciplinary the wishes of the residents on a regular basis. Take family with you every step of the way. And having a good conversation on time about tube feeding is a preconditioning for good and appropriate care in the last phase of the resident's life. And in the process, it is a process in which we continuously have to adapt. Thank you for your attention.